Welcome. I'm Gayathri and I'm passionate about transformative coaching in the realm of life and leadership. My journey towards coaching started with an educational background in psychology and over 20 years of corporate leadership. Today, my commitment to help unlock limitless possibilities within each individual has culminated in the creation of my organization, Realize to Win. As a certified master coach, my philosophy centers around the power of the human mind and its boundless capacity for growth and achievement. My approach is rooted in the belief that with the right mindset, training, and guidance, there's truly no limits to what you can accomplish. My work is just not about reaching goals. It is truly about redefining the very boundaries of potential. Join me every week on my podcast, Catalyze Your Self, where we can dive into mindsets, experiences, and practical steps that will ignite your transformation towards limitless possibilities. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. Welcome back to Catalyze Your Self, the podcast that's all about sparking personal growth and transformation. I'm your host, Gayathri, and today we are turning into episode 8, Demystifying Your Happiness. Whether you're on your morning jog, commuting to work, or just taking a moment to yourself, I am so glad you're with me to explore this very important topic, happiness. It's something we all chase, but what does it truly mean to be happy? And how can we identify what truly lights up our lives? Let's start by acknowledging the simple truth. Identifying what makes us truly happy isn't always straightforward. It's like peeling an onion. There are layers to our happiness, some of which we might not even be aware of. So if you're someone who has heard themselves say, I just want to be happy, keep listening, because today we're going to take the concept of happiness and determine what factors cause it, what you can do to nourish it, and what your transformed life could look like because of it. Before I go any further, I want to make a clear distinction. There's a difference between comfort and happiness. You can be in absolute physical and mental comfort and not be happy. And at the same token, there are certain comforts that can bring you happiness, but it may not be a consistent, sustainable happiness. So it's very important that we recognize there's a true difference to something that keeps us in comfort that could, if not leveraged in a healthy way, result in staying in a negative space, staying in a place of a lack of growth, staying in a place where you're not progressing further. On the other hand, when you move yourself to happiness, it's where you are being your best selves and you are priming yourself for future further growth. Okay, so now that I've clearly made that distinction, I want us to take a quick look back on my own journey and those I have witnessed in my personal and professional lives, and some of the patterns that I want to call out that has stood out for me. The first of which is those who are happy, truly happy, allow themselves to be happy and stay happy. There's an element of choice here. There's an element of recognizing and truly loving themselves for who they are. And this is where my journey took me. For me personally, it took the growth needed to truly love myself. It took the recognition that happiness is a state of self, that my mind and my body needs to function optimally and effectively. It took the recognition that my happiness is directly correlated to how I think about myself and how I treat myself and what I do for myself to keep my mind in a healthy, happy place. It took the recognition that my happiness does not take away from the impact or importance of compassion for others who may not be going through the best of times. it took so many lessons for me to come to this place where I now allow myself to be happy regardless of what is happening around me. Now, there's another lesson, and that is those who intentionally provide happiness to self stay consistently happy. This is again an element of choice. So we are choosing to find things that help our mind to stay in a happy place. This recognition came to myself one day, and it is when I had the privilege of witnessing someone in my life who I hold in great respect. And this came out of a reflection because this person passed away. It was my grandfather who passed away when I was very young. And it was not before I had the chance to learn so much from him about his way of being. When I reflect back on how he carried himself, the first word that comes to my mind is grace. And the second is peace. So much of my memory of him was where he had a small smile on his face. We did not have a lot of land, and where our house was more narrow and tall versus flat. And he created a rose garden. There was a portion of the roof that was flat. There were two layers of the roof that was essentially flat, and he created a rose garden in that flat space on the roof. And I would spend time watching him tending to each one of those rose plants. He would patiently sit and graft. He would talk to me as he was grafting the actual action of what he was doing. But it was so fascinating to me, even as a child, watching him to see his focus. His world was that particular plant, that particular bud he was tending to, that particular rose bush that he was working with. And I spent so much time watching him and learning and feeling a sense of calm just being in his presence. Today, now I recognize what he was doing. He was having mindful, calm moments tending to what gave him happiness, and he was nourishing his mind. I have taken this lesson and integrated into my way of being today. It took me a while. It took me my own journey to get to that place. But I reflected, I recognized it, and now I have it as part of my own way of being, my day to day. I give time, I find the time to give to what makes me happy. Somewhere along the way, every day, it is something that I now has become a part of the way I live my life. I do this knowing a happy me gives the best of me to those around me and to myself. There's one more key lesson when it comes to happiness. That is, those who are authentically happy recognize that their own happiness is not another person's responsibility to provide. My own life journey took me to this recognition through many different lessons. But what I want to share with you today is someone that demonstrated this, that I witnessed demonstrating this as another example. When I think about who I feel demonstrated this in a very exemplary way that I was able to witness was many years ago. And let's give her a name. Her name's Sarah. In her role, Sarah supported a leader, and this was in a workspace. She supported a leader who did not demonstrate qualities of a strong, healthy leadership style. So you can, in your own ways and through your own experiences, recognize what those behaviors could be. Now, no matter how this leader was behaving and how he was clearly impacting people around him, I would find Sarah centered, measured, balanced, and had a joke to tell someone to make them laugh throughout the day. Nothing about this individual's behavior shifted how she navigated the world. And with her leader, I would notice her approach was consistent. I noticed she would always be firm and calm. And this was slowly shifting how he was now responding to her. It was not an overnight, but I definitely noticed the pattern change where how he approached her tended to now be more measured. And she was almost setting the expectation of how he behaved with her based on how she was interacting with him. It was fascinating. I've always been fascinated by human behavior. So these kind of dynamics, I'm always watching and observing so I can learn. Now, there were people at the office definitely who made consistent comments that it was a miracle that Sarah had not quit because that was the pattern. People were quitting all the time on this individual because he was definitely not in a measured, balanced space. There was a part of me that knew the answer already, but I wanted to learn from her how her mind was processing her workday experiences. So one day I spent the time with her to understand. And it was it validated what I had already thought, but it was so lovely to hear it from her. And her answers were very simple. It was essentially, he will impact my mind only if I allow him to impact my mind. I know what my role is and what my value is. What he does only demonstrates who he is. She simply did not allow him to impact her peace and happiness. And I walked away thinking, now that is a strong mind, one that can withstand pressures and remain centered in integrity and to their self. I of course did wonder what lessons life gave Sarah for her to come to that recognition and develop that specific ability. She was a masterclass of grace and one we can all aspire to be. So, having said all that, what is happiness? Yes, it's an emotion. It is a need of our psyche to feel good. It's a phenomenon that makes our body literally age backwards. There are so many studies that show people who are happy live longer, healthier lives. When something can help you delay aging, you know what comes along with it? Whole bunch of human interest. So yes, there is science and there are studies behind it. The psychological perspective of happiness for the longest time and traditionally focused on understanding it through the lens of emotional states and how our brain process it. So the cognitive side of things, right? Overarchingly, what I've learned from a whole lot of these call outs and highlights of these studies is that if you as a person have not figured out what truly makes you happy, then moments of happiness can come and go. But that consistent state of happiness fluctuates. So it goes back to your base level. So, what I mean by that is if you were an unhappy person before, maybe something happens that momentarily gives you happiness. And once that stimuli is gone, you go right back to being an unhappy person. There are studies on lottery winners. You know, it's a dream of so many of ours to win the lottery. And we only imagine the joy we're going to feel when we have suddenly not a worry about money, right? So there are studies done on lottery winners that show that that initial euphoria, that initial happiness, at some point, it goes right back to what it was before they won that lottery. So cognitively, you will remain a happy person if you nourish what makes you happy. And we know winning a lottery, though a dream of ours, many people, once that's removed, for example, you're not going to win a lottery every day, you won't be able to maintain that happiness. So it's not feasible. So what makes you truly, truly happy becomes your only answer. Now, what about our physical bodies? Genetic factors and hormones play strong roles. If you determine these are your contributing factors, make the decision to seek support. Whatever your belief system is when it comes to seeking help, go for it. Your happiness depends on it. Your long, healthy, happy life depends on it. What we do know is that the influence of happiness on the physiology of our body, particularly in the context of aging, is profound. Happiness and a positive outlook can lead to greater neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, as we know, is simply put, it refers to our brain's ability to adapt and change throughout our life. Studies show that positive emotions can enhance brain function and cognitive flexibility. And what does this do? It counteracts some of the negative effects of aging on the brain. Happiness has been shown to boost our immune system. Happier individuals tend to have better immune responses, which in particularly will become important as we grow older, as our immune system naturally declines and weakens with age. This means fewer illnesses and the potential to live longer, healthier lives. Happiness and positive emotions are associated with better heart health. Positive psychological well being is linked to lower blood pressure, reduced risk of heart disease, and improved heart rate variability. And what does this do? It really helps in mitigating the effect of age related cardiovascular decline. Happiness helps in regulating our body's stress response. It can lower cortisol levels and help maintain balance in our hormones. By reducing stress, happiness can, and increasing happiness can prevent the various health issues exacerbated by high cortisol levels, such as hypertension, metabolic disorders. We should all figure out our own internal true source of happiness and go for it. So, how do you go about finding those sources of happiness, the hot spots that help you find your joy? First off, think of the moments that gave you the feeling that you were most alive. Was it where you were surrounded by nature? Were you spending time with loved ones? Was it where you were immersed in some sort of entertainment? Was it when you were deep into a creative project? These are all clues that take you through the path that tells you what fills your mind with happiness. I will share with you an example of a client of mine. We will give her the name Isabel. The goal that Isabel was working with me was one where she was struggling with the feeling that she was moving through life like a robot, and all her priorities in her life had overwhelmed who she was as a person. As we worked through the recognition and identification process of her true happiness hotspot, she realized she was happiest when she was writing. Initially, when she was younger, she used to do that much more. And as life caught up with her, it became a hobby. And then it became something she squeezed in whenever she had the time. And eventually, it became something she barely did. Upon recognizing the source of joy, she made intentional changes to her schedule to dedicate at least an hour each day to writing. And fast forward many, many months later, she's not only fulfilled, she has found a sense of balance. She's genuinely happy that she's spending time doing things that she is happy about, that gives her happiness. She's also created a goal around it. She has now started writing a book that she intends to publish shortly. So, how can you, like Isabel, identify and embrace these happiness opportunities? We can all start small. We can start by making a list of activities that bring you joy and happiness. Experiment with them, adjust your routines to include these activities more often, and observe how your mood and outlook start improving. We know this. Happiness is an emotion. Therefore, it is never a steady state. It's a fluctuating experience that can vary greatly over time and whatever's happening at the moment. This dynamic nature truly tells us we must actively maintain through practices in order to foster that emotional happy state. Let me share a story here of a friend of mine. We will give her the name Kelly. Kelly has been a dedicated healthcare professional, and she has been, as long as I've known her, very much committed to her work. What this did, though, was overshadow her personal needs and her hobbies. Emily enjoyed her work, but over time, she ceased engaging in activities that previously brought her happiness. She loved to go hike, she loved to paint, but as her life moved on and years passed, Emily found that her work was not fulfilling her. And she began to experience signs of burnout and depression. Realizing that she had neglected her own happiness, Emily reached a true breaking point where continuing in her current state was just not feasible. Faced with deteriorating mental health, she decided to take a sabbatical. This is a drastic decision. However, making this decision ultimately allowed her to rediscover her interests and rebuild her emotional health. And I share this story for a reason. There are times, or many of us tend to create or allow our life to get to a point of critical mass where it becomes unbearable and we have reached burnout or we have realized we can't take it anymore before we take action. I think Kelly's stories and many of our own stories underscores the criticality or the importance of prioritizing our happiness so things don't get to that critical mass and we don't have to make drastic decisions to alter. We have figured out a way to create a sense of progression in our life where things can move in a more harmonious way. Individuals who recognize and nurture what brings them joy are more likely to experience a balanced life and prevent that buildup of stress and dissatisfaction that can reach that critical threshold. It's that straw that broke that camel's back. Many of us have heard that story. It's never that one small thing, it's the culmination of addition of things that got to us to a point of we can't take it anymore. So, prioritizing happiness helps individuals remain resilient in the face of challenges and it contributes to a more gratifying life. One effective way to nourish happiness is through the recognition and gratitude of life's little moments. This practice can transform everyday experiences, highlight the positive aspects of life, and really cultivate a general sense of well being. With that, let me share some practical ways for you to maintain and nourish happiness. Connect with the present moment. Become aware of and recognize the emotional state you're currently in and cultivate an attitude of acceptance and gratitude. Another one, move your body so your neurotransmitters release endorphins and serotonin. Use your body. Already has everything you need. Move it, and you will see your mood improving and it's reducing stress for you. Engage in activities that you, not someone else, you find enjoyable and fulfilling. Maintain strong relationships and interact with others who provide you with a sense of a healthy, supportive, non judgmental space to grow. In the same token, be the healthy, supportive, non judgmental space for others to grow in. You cannot be a toxic person and expect others to support you or enable you so you can remain in the comfort of being your toxic self. What you will find is that they will be gone so they can find their happiness. Setting goals and achieving them gives a great sense of accomplishment and purpose. So find them, find your goals. What do you want to accomplish? and build that into your life path. This is so important for your emotional well-being. And celebrate, recognize the little things. It's the moment of the now. That's what matters the most. Now, to close it all out, happiness is a powerful emotion that not only enhances our lives, but also has the potential to positively impact those around us. Maintaining happiness requires effort and intentionality. By recognizing the dynamic nature of happiness and actively nourishing it, we can avoid reaching critical emotional thresholds that compel drastic steps. Instead, we can enjoy a life characterized by emotional resilience, satisfaction, and have a positive impact on our surroundings. Ultimately, the investment in personal happiness is an investment in your quality of life, not just for yourself, but also for those you care about that you surround yourself with. If you're listening and thinking, I want to discover and ways to nurture me and what makes me truly happy, I'm here to help. Consider signing up for personal one-on-one coaching with me. Together, we will explore what makes you tick. What are your happiness hotspots? And I will support you in creating a plan that you will take to action that brings you joy, satisfaction, and yes, happiness. And now I would love to hear from you. What makes you happy? What are those little things that you add into your daily life that gives you those moments of happiness that you make sure you do every day, every chance you get? Share your stories and your insights with me directly, message me, or in the comments so everyone else can see and benefit from it. And if you have found value in today's episode, don't forget to share, like, subscribe to Catalyze Yourself. I would greatly appreciate it. Your support helps reach these messages out to a wider audience and potentially spark the change they need in their lives. That's all for today's episode of Demystify Your Happiness. I hope you felt inspired to take a step back, explore what truly brings you joy, and actively take part in your life. Stay tuned for next episodes coming up, and remember, your journey of happiness to happiness starts with you. Until next time, keep catalyzing, stay happy, and grow towards your best self.